Welcome to AHRC TV's weekly roundup. In this week's program, AHRC TV brings you the latest from the region. Nepal's earthquake update. Rural Nepal in need of immediate assistance. Indian policeman caught cheating, suspended. Welcome to AHRC TV's weekly roundup. I am Emerine. AHRC TV continues to report from Nepal, where residents of villages devastated by the 7.8 Richter scale earthquake continue to suffer in the aftermath. The loss of human lives, over 7,000 and counting, and the destruction of infrastructure supporting daily lives already under stress in one of the poorest countries on earth, has been terrible. Many Nepalese need help. Food, water, medical resources are getting scarce. The next few months will be a struggle. Infrastructure for food, water, and shelter stand compromised as the rainy season begins. International help is direly required now, but the government of Nepal has asked all search and rescue teams that have arrived in Nepal from 34 countries to return home, thanking the international community for their generous support in the aftermath of the massive earthquake. If the global community walks away, the people of Nepal will not receive the assistance required for them to rebuild their lives. With few exceptions, the state has so far performed miserably in the aftermath of the earthquake. The situation of the country in the countryside is far worse than that in Kathmandu. Yet almost 2 weeks since the quake, the truth of it remains largely unknown. It appears that in several districts where millions of people live, most villages have been destroyed. Seismologists have estimated that the death toll as a result of the earthquake could reach as high as 50,000. It is a reality that most villagers in need have not received relief. There are already reports of public anger directed at the authorities in regional towns. And in Kathmandu too, those who have lost everything say they have received nothing from the government. There is a risk that this frustration, if not addressed quickly, could boil over. Those villages with better connections to people in power have got tents and supplies long ago, whereas many villages where vulnerable Dalit, Janajati, and Madhesi residents live are still sleeping in the fields and in animal sheds. Thousands are also sleeping in cars or in open spaces because they have either lost their houses or fear more tremors and don't trust their houses will remain standing. Even those that have access tents are worried. The monsoon season is fast approaching, and spending the season in a tent is going to be extremely challenging. The AHRC's representative, Shivahari Gyawali, continues his live report from the ground.
अनि अहिले बाबुलाई कस्तो छ?
मेरो छोरो जेठो छोरो जेठी बुहारी खसिहाल्यो, पुरिहाल्यो माटाले। नातिलाई जेठादेखि नातिलाई लास, मेरो जेठी बुहारी लास, अनि तीनटा नातिहरू चाहिँ नातिनी तीनटा चाहिँ उनकै छन् भनेर झिकेछन्। बुढाले पुरेछ, बुढालाई अहिले अस्पताल लगेको गाडीमा हालेर पठाइदिएको छ, काँतेला छाड्दै त्यही नि सब। भाइ के गर्नु, खोइ के खानु छ र? पानी ल्याएको छन् बुढाले, पानी खायो, यसो फलफुल केही छोरीहरूले ल्याएको फलफुल खायो।
अब 1-2 किलो ल्याउँदै अब कहिले भोकै बसी बस्यो। त्यहाँभन्दा अगाडि त अब भोकै रहेछन् के अरे, सोह्रको आइपुगेको। अब पानी खान नपाएर अब कुखुरालाई चाहिँ त्यो राखिदिएको दाना, त्यो हालेको पानी त्यो समय पनि
अब एसएलसीतिर बसेको, स्कुल त के जानु है। अब सकियो भने त स्टाफ नर्सतिर ट्राई गरौँ भने सर, के हुन्छ। घर भत्किहाल्यो, के आशा छ र भन्नेको नि।
अब घर भत्कियो, बस्ने ठाउँ छैन, काहीँ केही छैन, तिरपालहरू केही मिलेको छैन। त्यसैले अनि यहाँ बसिरहेको। चौरमा सुतिन्छ, भैँचालो आ बेलामा बाहिर गइन्छ, चौरमा सुतिन्छ बेलुका। अब कसरी बनाउने भनेर अब यसो सरकारले केही सहयोग दियो भने बनाउने हो, नभए अब कसरी बनाउने। अब यसो तिरपाल सिरपाल मिल्यो भने त्यसमा बसेर नै अब जिन्दगी गुजारा गर्नुपर्ने हुन्छ। काहीँ केही छैन।
त्यसो गर्नाले अनि सामानलाई आएको छ नआएको होइन जति पनि आइरहेको छ कोही व्यक्तिले ल्याएर बाँडेको छ भनेको छ व्यक्तिले ल्याएर बाँडेको पनि अब कुन समयमा को आउँदाखेरि कसलाई भेट्यो त्यो मान्छेले पाइहाल्यो हामी आफ्नो साइजमा अब यो यसो छाप्राहरू हाम्रो अलमल बसेका हुन्छौँ अनि अरू चाहिँ नि अब थाहा नै हुँदैन फेरि अर्कोचोटि गयो ए फलाना त पाइसकेको छैन भने तिनीहरूले पायो हामी दिँदैन त अर्कोचोटि दिन्छौँ भने अर्कोचोटि आउँदाखेरि फेरि त्यस्तै लापरवाही भइरहेको छ अब हामीलाई यो ठाउँमा आइरहेको छ बाँड्नलाई चाहिँ एकदम लापरवाही गरेर बाँडिएको छ
कारण एक हामी दलित भएको कारणले पनि हो र अर्को चाहिँ अब ऊ ठुल्ठुला मान्छेहरूलाई मात्र थाहा हुन्छ क्या यहाँ रात आउन लाग्छ भन्ने कुरा उनीहरूले एउटा एनाउन्स जस्तो तरिकाले बाँड्दैनन् ल्याउँछन् आफ्नो मान्छेलाई पुर्याउँछन् अनि मात्र बाँकी रहेको चाहिँ ल यो दलितको लागि भनेर उनीहरूले छुट्याएको अब पालको अवस्था छैन एउटा हाम्रो अब पाल बस्ने व्यवस्था राम्रो भएको छैन अब घरमा बस्ने स्थिति छैन हामीलाई पाल अहिलेसम्म कसैले पनि उपलब्ध एउटै मान्छेले एउटै व्यक्तिले पनि 3-4वटा पाल पाइरहेको अवस्था हामीले देखिरहेको छौँ र 3-4वटा घरले पनि एउटा मात्र पाल पाएको अवस्था देखिरहेको छौँ यसमा पनि अब भनौँ न कुनै निकायको ध्यान पुगेको छैन
Since the tremors began, Nepali communities around the world have poured in their support. Nepalese citizens have proven their unity and commitment to each other over and over again when pushed to the limit. Many youths and local groups in the country have realized their role and are doing whatever they can to help Nepal. Now it is time for the government to do so, too. The AHRC appeals to the government and the international community to reach out to rural areas in Nepal to offer help where it is most needed. Mr. T.J. Jose, Inspector General of Police in charge of Thrissur Range in Kerala, has been expelled from an examination center on 4th May 2015. The invigilator found him copying, cheating in the examination hall. The officer was appearing for a written paper on constitutional law for the LLM course he has been attending. The Vice-Chancellor of Mahatma Gandhi University has ordered that the officer must not appear for any of the remaining papers. The Home Minister has suspended the officer from duty with immediate effect and an investigation has been ordered. AHRC TV speaks with Mr. Bijo Francis, Executive Director of the AHRC, to learn more about the cheating policeman.
Now, what we have this week is a case of a police officer who was caught red-handed copying while he was appearing for an examination, an LLM examination, where the officer was sitting in as an external candidate. Now, the officer in question is Mr. T.J. Jose. He is the Inspector General of Police for Thrissur Range in the southern state of Kerala in India. Now, what the officer did was he brought small photocopies of a guidebook which he thought will help him answer the questions, hid it in his handkerchief. And unfortunately for him, he was caught red-handed by the invigilator at the examination center. He refused to hand over the contraband material to the invigilator. He was ordered out from the examination hall. The university has prohibited him from appearing for any further examinations this year. Of course, it was all in the media, and when he was questioned by the media, he has denied what has happened. But the Home Minister has immediately suspended him from active service. An investigation is underway. And if we were to take experiences as examples and indicators of what would eventually happen in this case, as an Indian, I would say that nothing will come out. He might be, he will be definitely inducted back into active service, and he will continue as the Inspector General of Police, and he will retire. Now, this incident poses some important issues concerning policing and the nexus or the relationship that policing has with the political ruling elite in the country like India. Now, while this is important, while this incident is important to be understood, I think we should also look at it from the context of where the state of Kerala is today. And this is emblematic to the rest of other states in India, and also for other countries in the region. 3 cabinet ministers in the state cabinet is accused of corruption. Meticulous details of who has paid bribe, on what issue the bribe has been paid, where the money was given, what amount of money was given, who came in which car or which vehicle, and whose house was used for transaction. All these things are there in the public realm. All that the state government has done so far is to order an investigation. That too, when the ombudsman had made an order to the government, asking the government to produce before the court the actions that the government has taken so far. So it is only because of that that there is an investigation. Now, what we have to understand in this context is that officers like Joe's is not an exception. These are officers who are part and parcel of running what is called the governance system in countries or states like Kerala. Now, here you have a corrupt cop who publicly cheats in examination. That too on constitutional law, a founding document of the country which guarantees the primacy of truth. He has sat and he is cheating in that examination. And there are ministers who are supposed to be above him or who are there to form policing policies or who are part and parcel of an establishment that should be forming policing policies, who are there to take actions against him, who are also alleged of corruption. So what we see is that at the highest level, there is an overwhelming presence of corruption, where the investigating agency that is supposed to investigate corruption in itself is corrupt, and the persons who are supposed to formulate policies for these investigating agencies to be working in what is otherwise considered as a civilian policing establishment, or to be functioning as a civilian policing establishment, providing service to the people, providing protection to the people, are also corrupt or also accused of corruption. So there is a very close, tight-knit nexus of corrupt individuals within the government, within the policy-making group that includes predominantly, that is made up predominantly by politicians, and the higher ups of the police are also corrupt. Now, what is the morale that this caucus would communicate to the people? That corruption is the norm. What is the morale that this vicious circle will communicate to the subordinate ranks, all the way from the IG to that of the police constables? Corruption is the norm. So whoever who gets to be in the normative framework, which in a country like India is corruption, is where politicians take care of the police takes care of the politician. Ordinary people cannot expect anything, and in fact they don't have an expectation, that is the truth, where justice is served. So what we find, even though this is an incident where a cop was appearing for a private or an examination of his own choice in a university where he was caught red-handed, it is emblematic of a larger wilt that has happened. It is emblematic of a larger problem that has happened or that has occurred, which has not been spoken about so far in countries like India. And I think what is that existing in India is also similar with relative degrees of differences in other countries in the region. So those who talk about police reforms, those who want to discuss meaningfully about justice institution reforms, one need to understand the relationships between the politicians in the country, the rich in the country, and cops like Jaws. I mean, how they work together to build a strong wall of impunity. And what does this produce? This produces extrajudicial execution, this produces torture, this produces corruption at all levels. So what we have today is an establishment which does not function according to the book, but it is an establishment which has created a wall of impunity, which has created a fort of non-accountability, where people who are capable of taking care of each other takes care of themselves at the sake of ordinary people's rights, ordinary people's privileges, the services that they are expected to receive, and so on. Now, to cut back, if we were to think as to what will happen to Jose, after a few days he will be reinstated into the service. He will continue, he will retire as an Inspector General of Police, or maybe he will get promoted. And people don't expect any miracles out of this. And this is the banality of how much the institution has fallen down, how much the criminal justice or the justice apparatus in countries like India has fallen down is what is alarming. Unfortunately, what is saddening is that nobody speaks about it.
That is all for this weekly roundup. For more on these and other issues, please visit www.humanrights.asia. Thank you for watching and see you next week.